it. And when I say to most Chinese people, they don't get it, but I'll explain why I see it as a colonial relationship. And the same goes for Tibet and for Mongolia for that matter as well. Chinese people don't see it that way because they see China, of course, as historically a victim of colonialism. And up to the 30s, I'm right with them on that. Although, when we visit the ruins of the old Summer Palace together and they start to get a bit bristly about it, I remind them that I'm half Irish and I'm not to be out-victimed by anyone when it comes to British colonialism. So I'll just throw that in. Han Chinese residents who were being interviewed, they were genuinely puzzled. Why are these people so angry? Why don't they like us? Why aren't they grateful? Look what we've done for them. We developed the province, you know, it was nothing. There was a few oasis towns in 1949 and now it has, you know, all modern amenities and developing economy. It's a resource-based economy, but there are some pockets of very high income around Xinjiang. And a lot of very fancy buildings going up in Urumqi too. New shopping malls, nice hotels, new Sofitel, nearly finished when I was there. So, you know, really, what more do they want? And also, there is a perception that ethnic minorities are actually privileged, that they get extra help from the government, you know, slightly lower grade points, entrance to university, some cases slightly looser regulations in the one-child policy. You know, not only do they get a fair shake, they actually get special privileges. So really, these people have nothing to complain about. And they see Chinese rule, of course, as benevolent. We came here to bring economic development, you know, it actually has cost us a lot of money and work, so what have you got to complain about too? The gratitude thing, I was so struck by how everywhere you went in Urumqi, it was right in your face. I stayed in a hotel on People's Square, and they have the big obelisk in the centre there, with that's the memorial to liberation. And the Chinese face is the one, the main one. If you want to read the message in Uyghur language, you have to go around the side, which I thought was a little bit off. And one of my colleagues just told me the other day when I was talking about this, he says that that monument, actually I've got a picture of it, slightly blurry photo I'm afraid, but it's a giant obelisk, sort of mini Tiananmen Square style, if you can imagine that. That monument and the whole square is floodlit all the time. A lot of places in China, they turn the lights off when they're in Shanghai, the fancy lighting now to save power. They don't do that. And he said he was told by a Xinjiang official the reason they floodlight it all the time is they're so afraid of people trying to vandalise that monument. They think we, the population, are going to attack it and make an incident in People's Square. So apparently the lights are never off. Street names, New China, new people, liberation. I mean, you get a few of those in any major Chinese city, but you seem to get nothing but in the major roads in Xinjiang. The museums in Xinjiang, which are excellent in many respects, but they all have a massive, you know, kind of as big as this room, diorama celebrating the peaceful liberation and showing you the ethnic minorities, laughing and applauding and welcoming the PLA. And you're just never allowed to forget, we came in, sorted the place out, we've done all this for you, and you know, you will be grateful. And it's really ran down people's throats. It got on my nerves and I don't even live there, I was only there for a week, so. Possibly it was because I'd recently been in Dublin, which is also a colonial capital, but I was really struck by those features of Urumqi when I was there. Just to give you some idea of the geography, there's People's Square where the original protests started. If you take any bus south on Jinnefeng Road after about 5 stops, you get down to the Ardell Market, the bazaar, and it's only 5 stops on the bus, but you could be in a different country, because it's a very divided city. The Uyghur neighbourhoods are really Uyghur, and the rest of it is really Chinese, and you only hear Mandarin spoken, which is lucky for me because I only speak Mandarin, I don't speak Uyghur. I'm going to learn some for next time. So that gives you some idea. I mean, it's not a huge distance, but this is one of the major Uyghur neighbourhoods. Several of the main mosques are down there. So this is my thesis that it's colonial. What is colonial economic development like? It takes place, you get modernisation, you get infrastructure, you get development, you get rapid growth, but it is skewed towards the interests of the metropolitan power, which is the Beijing government, and settlers, which is the Han Chinese residents of Urumqi. It is not actually aimed at benefiting the indigenous population themselves. They don't design it, and they don't even participate in its management at a high level. There is a glass ceiling, and above that ceiling people will always be Han Chinese. And not Uyghur. Some things there on income, I didn't want to put all the numbers up, but roughly speaking, Han Chinese who are on those Xinjiang production and construction coal farms earn about 3 times as much as farming households who are Uyghur. And urbanites, who as I said, mostly Han Chinese, earn 5 times as much or more. So there is a massive income disparity. When you look at the across-the-board figures for the province, the income figures don't look too bad. You've always got to factor in these ethnic divisions. Very high unemployment for the Uyghur minority, and it's reportedly got a lot worse since July. A lot of businesses closed down, and it is really hard to operate when you can't get on the internet, you know, even the phone connections are intermittent. In job fairs, you actually see displays for jobs saying Uyghurs don't even apply. Anti-discrimination law in China is in its infancy, I think it's fair to say, and so they actually put it right out there. This is a thing that was highlighted by the Congressional Executive Committee on China and the States in 2006. 800 civil service vacancies reserved for Han Chinese, no uniform. So there is institutionalized discrimination in employment and in economic opportunities. It's a resource-based economy, basically stripping resources out of Xinjiang, and the profit tends to end up elsewhere. There's also environmental damage with that, and again, those Xinjiang production core farms, the irrigation of them has caused desertification elsewhere. They had a lot of desert anyway, but they now have more, which could be more. Other colonial attitudes. This is not just Uyghurs, but Chinese attitudes toward ethnic minorities generally. One of my students told me they've just redone it, but previously I've been many times to the Ethnic Minorities Gallery in the Shanghai Museum on People's Square. If you get the chance to do go, because the exhibits are fantastic, they have some wonderful stuff in there. If there's ever a firearm, and I mean, I'm definitely going to steal some of the Uyghur metalwork because it's exquisite. This is my plan. But the clothing and weapons are displayed on mannequins, and all of these mannequins are dark-skinned. I mean, really quite dark. Not quite my coat dark, but getting on for that. And actually, in actual fact, none of those minorities is darker skinned than the average Chinese person. Some of them look more sort of Mediterranean. But they are being made to look other, and they are being implicitly downgraded in the racial hierarchy by having their artifacts displayed like that. And it's just certainly a really strange thing to do, but probably a significant thing to do. The Routledge museums actually are better, but they still, the things they pick out, they say, well, you know, what do Kazakh people like, or what tailored Kazakh people like, or what Uyghur people like, and it's always primitive imageries, traditional weapons and hunting and musical instruments and closeness to nature. So a primitive, unsophisticated sort of pre-urban people is the thing that's put across. Of course, the exotic colonial other can be very attractive, sometimes in a bad way. Ethnic sex tourism is something a couple of people in the UK Chinese First Community are working on now. Not in Xinjiang specifically, more in the southwest of China. But there you go. Where you have these kind of ethnic divisions in a colonial territory, this fear of infection and of sexual contamination between women from the majority culture and ethnic minority men is a very, very common trope. You see it in British India, you see it all over the world, wherever imperial rule has occurred. And it was there, I said Dongguan, I thought Dongguan on brain is of course Shaohua. Fears of sexual contact between Han women and Uyghur men. The syringe attacks, again, there is a high HIV infection rate, so the panic was understandable, but again, it's the kind of fear which is very, very typical of a family situation. And as it turned out, there was nothing much behind it in this case.